All across the United States, there are many examples of once thriving towns and communities that are now, for economic, environmental, or cultural reasons, in decline. As populations relocate and businesses close, if the current trends continue in many of these places, it is likely they won't be around much longer and are at risk of completely disappearing and becoming ghost towns. Here are 5 towns in America that are slowly fading away. Number 1. Amboy, California. Located in Southern California alongside historic Route 66, Amboy was first settled as a mining camp in 1858 and officially designated as a town in 1883 with the construction of the nearby Atlantic and Pacific Railroad. In 1926, Route 66 was established, connecting Chicago, Illinois to Santa Monica, California, and passing through 8 states. Route 66 also helped connect rural towns and bring new business and economic opportunities to otherwise isolated communities. Amboy, California was one of these places. During the Dust Bowl and Great Depression, Route 66 served as the main road that migrant workers and those moving west looking for better opportunities, mainly from states like Oklahoma, Texas, and Kansas, used to travel. After the Depression and World War II, the road was primarily used by tourists. Throughout these years, Amboy experienced a good deal of growth, though it was never particularly a large town, with estimates concluding the population was around 700 by the 1950s. Amboy was able to prosper in spite of its remote location in the Mojave Desert. At its peak, the town was home to multiple service stations, cafes, and motels. This began to change around 1973 with the opening of Interstate 40, which redirected traffic away from Amboy. Route 66 was officially decommissioned as a federal highway in 1985, further contributing to the already decreasing amount of travelers that would pass through such towns. Business declined and the population decreased. The local school was closed in 1999, and as of making this video, the population was reported as 0 permanent residents. There is, however, one business still open. Roy's Motel and Cafe is still in operation and continues to serve tourists today. It has been mostly restored to its original state and is one of the most iconic landmarks along the historic highway. However, there are still problems threatening its existence, a majority of them being a decline of tourists passing through the area from causes like road closures or repairs, and the COVID-19 pandemic of recent years that resulted in less travel was also not helpful. All this while the town is already very much out of the way from other attractions in the area. Still, there are many people dedicated to preserving the old Route 66 and its roadside attractions such as this one. Number 2. Gary, Indiana. The birthplace of Michael Jackson, and at its peak in 1960 home to around 178,000 residents, Gary, Indiana has been in decline for many decades now. Founded in 1906 by the United States Steel Corporation, the town was named after one of the company's founders, Albert Henry Gary, and was intended to grow alongside the newly built Gary Works steel mill. Gary, Indiana was built over woodland and swamps and was designed to be a modern industrial city. Throughout the United States' involvement in World War I, steel production rose, and by 1920, the population was listed at 55,344, with a large percentage of European immigrants and Black Americans moving into the city, though the population was largely segregated. The town itself sought to provide comfortable accommodation to the workers and marketed itself as the Magic City and the City of the Century. There was tension within the community and general unrest among workers as well throughout its history. Working at a steel mill was often dangerous and the hours were long, so there were several instances of events such as strikes. Notably in 1919 when U.S. steel workers across the country, including in Gary, went on strike to advocate for safer working conditions and better work hours. It was common for many workers to work 12-hour days and over 60 hours a week in conditions where there was a high risk of injury or death. To replace the striking workers, many of whom were immigrants of various European descent, U.S. Steel brought in more Black and Mexican Americans, which further exacerbated racial tensions and ethnic divides. The army, led by General Leonard Wood, was called in and took over most of the city, and the strike was a failure. More growth came during World War II, when there was again more demand for steel, and by the mid-20th century, Gary had reached its peak. The second half of the 20th century saw much of the steel industry leave the United States, taking thousands of jobs with them. This hit towns like Gary especially hard, as, according to one paper, the city depended on the company for its economy and identity. People thus continued to depend on an economy that was driven by U.S. steel alone. There were about 70,000 steel manufacturing jobs in the city in 1970, which decreased to around 6,000 by 1980, only 10 years later. Most people who could afford to leave left, looking elsewhere for jobs and opportunity. As the population decreased, local businesses, once frequented by residents, were forced to close, causing the city to lose even more jobs. Schools closed, buildings became abandoned, and infrastructure crumbled as money ran out. Gary, Indiana has been in a slow, precipitous decline ever since, and though has somewhat stabilized, it is unlikely to achieve the heights it reached over 60 years ago ever again. Although a Hard Rock casino did open there in 2021 and seems to be doing well. Number 3. Tangier, Virginia. Tangier, Virginia is located on Tangier Island, a small island in the Chesapeake Bay between Virginia and Maryland. Tangier has a population of 436 people according to the 2020 U.S. Census, and is not primarily declining due to lack of economic opportunities, but instead due to the island's continued loss of land, and it is estimated the entire town will be underwater within the next few decades. Native Americans most likely used the island as a place to hunt or fish, and the first known settlement was recorded in 1778, though European explorers have visited the area over a century before that. Many of the town's current residents are descendants from the original settlers from England. This, combined with the island's isolation, contributes to the unique accent and way of speaking many of the locals still have today. According to David Shore, a linguist and author of the book Tangier Island, Place, People, and Talk, in an article published in 2018. This island has been so geographically isolated for all these years that it's kept relics of its earliest settlers' speech, likely lower-class British men. It's debated how much longer Tangier Island will be around, but everyone agrees the island is losing land. One report states that about 75% of the island's 1850 landmass was gone by 2015. This is due to rising sea levels and coastal erosion. Erosion has been a persistent issue in the Chesapeake Bay, and Tangier Island isn't the only island that has been threatened by it. According to one source, about 400 islands in the Chesapeake have disappeared since the 1600s, a recent example being Great Fox Island. Tangier Island is also at risk for flooding during storms. There are some who say the island will be uninhabitable within 50 years. Still, there are active measures in place to prevent this from happening, like a seawall that was built in 1990, and in 2025 around $10 million in federal funding was secured for maintenance, dredging, and shoal removal within navigation channels in the Chesapeake Bay, which would also help with land reclamation and countering erosion. Though how effective these measures will be is unknown, with some saying it will take potentially hundreds of millions of dollars to fully address the problem. Yet the town's residents remain hopeful there is still time to save their home. Number 4. Harland, Kentucky. Harland, Kentucky was first settled in 1796 and for a long time was named Mount Pleasant. It became the seat of the newly founded Harland County in 1819 and was eventually renamed Harlan many decades later. In 1833, the first commercial coal production began in Harland County. In 1911, the completion of the nearby railroad that allowed coal to be more easily transported led to the town and county developing into one of the largest coal-producing regions in Kentucky. According to a report, Harland County's coal output increased from 25,814 tons in 1910 to 15.2 million by 1929. The area is where the Harland County War, also called Bloody Harlan, took place, which was a series of strikes and labor disputes during the 1930s as the coal miners advocated for better working conditions and against wage cuts. The struggle turned violent. At least 13 miners and 5 guards working for the mine operators were killed. Like many other industries, production reached its peak during World War II and began to decline during the second half of the 20th century. Technological advancements and mechanization of certain parts of the mining process already led to a decrease in jobs, but the coal industry as a whole was beginning to decline around this time as natural gas and other resources became cheaper and more popular. For example, trains gradually stopped using coal as a fuel source in the 1930s, and most had stopped using it completely by the 1960s and 70s. In 1960, coal production in Harland County was 1.3 million tons, which was a 50-year low. Harland County's population was around 75,000 in 1940, and by 1970 was down to around 37,000. According to the 2020 census, the current population is about 26,000, with the town of Harland itself being a little under 2,000 people. Both the county and city continue to lose people every year. In 2019, Harland miners peacefully protested and prevented coal from leaving by blocking railroads after being laid off and not receiving proper pay. Since coal mining became less profitable, many companies closed or left the area. As the jobs decreased, many people had to leave to find employment elsewhere, especially younger people who don't have access to the same jobs their parents and grandparents had. According to one Harland resident, quoted in an article from 2016, "About everything is moving. All we've got down here is grocery stores and restaurants." Number 5. Monoi, Nebraska. Monoi is perhaps the least populated incorporated municipality in the United States, with the population of just 1 person. Founded in 1902 with an estimated peak population of only around 150 in the 1930s, Monoi has always been a small town. The main reason for the town's growth was its proximity to the Fremont, Elkhorn, and Missouri Valley Railroad that brought commerce and people to the area. After World War II, amidst many different economic and societal changes taking place across the United States, Monoi, like lots of other small towns in the Great Plains, was negatively affected. One reason being cars surpassing railroads in terms of importance, mechanization enabling farmers to do more work with less employees, and as urban and suburban areas began to grow, more people left smaller rural towns for more opportunities. As people left, tax revenue decreased, businesses were forced to close, and soon there would be virtually no reason for anybody to move into the town. The grocery stores and post office closed between 1967 and 1970, and the local school closed in 1974. As of making this video, Monoi's last resident is an elderly woman named Elsie Eiler, who after her husband died in 2004 became the town's only permanent resident. Eiler serves as the town's mayor, clerk, treasurer, librarian, and operates the Monoi Tavern, where people from the surrounding towns come to visit. Monoi is one of many extremely small towns scattered throughout the rural areas of Nebraska and the surrounding regions, and it's unclear what the future of these places will look like, or if there is any future for them at all. Well guys, it's the friendly neighborhood pig here. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe and check out some other videos on my channel as well. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I will be back shortly with another video.